So you have another series, or at least the Substack frames out the series as the Undergrounders with 4 different parts. And you've talked about the inner earth stuff and the hollow earth stuff and described it as this hyper dimensional, not metaphysical, but paraphysical place. And I think that fits with all the stories. We hear a story and our mind starts going off in the imagination and making pictures of what we imagine it to be like in a very physical way. So we imagine it literally, and these people go down to the inner earth. They have experiences with some hidden society down there, and then they come back. But when you describe it as paraphysical, I think that's right, because a lot of the mystics were the ones who would tell these tales, and they could see or astral project inside the earth. And they're like, no, there's a civilization down there, and it's not necessarily exactly physical. But then you have the stories of the Tibetans and the Himalayas and the idea that there is a physical tunnel down there. So it gets a little hard to work out, where does the physical tunnel start to enter into a paraphysical space? That stuff's a little fuzzy to me. Anything to say about some of that inner earth stuff?
Well, think about Skinwalker Ranch. Have you read much about it?
A little bit.
Read some of the descriptions of the phenomena that goes on there, and think also about some of those, say, the worst poltergeist cases you can think of, where there are things that manifest and fly around and so forth. Think of the Bell Witch. The Bell Witch, that's a really fascinating case. I mean, reading the actual original story about the Bell Witch that's a hyperdimensional thing. There are a number of, how do you tell the difference, and when does it pass from one end to the other? And the only thing I can say is that, say for example, Men in Black. Now, the stories about Men in Black are all pretty standard, and if you think about them being hyperdimensional beings who come into our reality to do certain things, and you notice that they have great difficulty staying solid, meshing with the reality completely. I mean, like they have makeup, or they have wigs, or their clothes are weird, or they're out of date wearing 1940s clothes, or some kind of thing. And their voices, they'll be talking and then they sound like they're running down, because they don't have the energy to stay in our reality. And that's one of the reasons why they don't just come in and take us over in an overt way, because they can't, maintain themselves in our reality. So they come in and they go out, they create portals, whatever. They use human beings, organic portals, to drop in and collect energy or whatever, or they behave like demonic beings and spiritually infest people. And, there's such a variety of things that can happen, and do happen, that, each case, I mean, you could just, and we do on our forum, I mean, we take cases and we just examine them to death sometimes. Each one is different.
Yeah.
And that's, the world is so full of such a number of things. I'm sure we should all be as happy as kings.
I like it. So this is a good one to end on. But in terms of freeing us or solving our initial plight that we talked about, being property, being food, you write, the way back to the activation of the DNA necessary to attain the contact with the higher centers is not through genetic manipulation, which is seeing the question through the lens of matrix influences. The way back is through the ancient spiritual science, the real work of the alchemists, which through the heating of the crucible, the neocortex rewrites the brain so that the ancient and broken connection with the higher centers can be reestablished. Seems like a good way to go out, but help people understand what you're saying here.
Well, here we're talking about what we call the work, because it is work. And sometimes it's very hard work. And it has to do with being able to train yourself to see the unseen reality. And that comes from sometimes from a lot of discussion and talking. I mean, it could be something as simple as saying, well, these various things happened to me in the last few days, and it's like my reality is trying to get my attention. You know, what do I need to look at in myself? We have collected together various ways and means, and it comes down to working with your emotions and your brain. You know, being able to think properly with your brain to free yourself from influences of your upbringing, your society, your religion, your school, whatever. Being able to deal with your emotions with your brain, because emotions should not run your brain. You shouldn't think with your emotions, but most people do think with their emotions, and we try to learn to separate that out, where the emotions, where you can feel the emotions and you can still think clearly with your brain while your emotions are roiling along inside. It's a pretty complicated process, but that's the easiest way to talk about it, is to talk about it in terms of the work. And we use various methods, and we do it, basically we do it on our forum. I mean, we do it more in a more concentrated way during in-person workshops, and like retreats and so forth. We have a constant flow of group members that come, and we work with them. And but mostly we do the introductory type work, right there on the forum, where people come in and they start to talk about their problems, and we try to help them to separate their emotions from their thoughts, and to get rid of their programming. And some of the worst programming, I'll tell you right up front, it's the be nice program. We're always, we're conditioned to be nice and to not say no, and to be, run over, and to be used and manipulated and so forth. And helping people to get over the be nice program is probably really, really hard. It's probably one of the hardest things that they ever do. But it's doing those kinds of things that gets them into a state where they begin to see the unseen on their own. They can begin to see when the universe is interacting with them in a dance rather than against them.
Can you believe it, people? A video clip and a peek into how that sweet THC sausage is made. For some people, I'm sure it's nice to put a face to the name, so I started making clips that are a little more YouTube friendly than the full show tends to be. Get the full show on any podcasting platform. I prefer to keep it audio only, so we have a more decentralized distribution for a controversial show, and also so I can edit out the ums and ahs and barking dogs and all the things that happen when a person records in their home environment. And then if you really like the show, you can sign up for THC Plus, and instead of 1 hour interviews, you get the full 2 hour interview for just $8. I think that's a better deal, more of a win-win than asking you to support the show by booking a therapy session or buying generic Viagra. It's getting weird out there, folks. So just go to the highersidechats.com or click the link at the top of any set of show notes, and all your wildest dreams will come true. All right? All right. The Higherside Chats.